It may be very tempting to touch the blue and purple translucent creatures, but you've been warned. Please do not. Spend the next 20 minutes feeding your brain with Formosa Fauna so you can learn all about the animal kingdom and become smarter than all of your friends. Because what better way to spend your commute or downtime? Every Friday is Formosa Fauna Friday. I'm Tristan Hildebrand, the voice of Formosa Fauna. I love animals and I love talking about them. On today's agenda, we're going to talk about deadly not-jellyfish that have shown up on the shores of Taiwan. We're also going to talk about why penguins' feet don't freeze, the first fundamental to dog training, and what Belgium has to do with dolphinariums. In case you missed it, in RTI News, an animal called the Portuguese man-o'-war, that's the Portuguese man-o'-war, has appeared on Taiwan's eastern coastal areas, specifically at beaches in Taidong and Hualien. These creatures resemble jellyfish, so they are frequently mistaken for jellyfish, but they are actually something called siphonophores, a bizarre group of animals that consist of colonies made up of hundreds of genetically identical individual entities that live and work together in concert. Interestingly enough, some hundreds to thousands of individuals might comprise the whole colony. Some are tasked with breaking down food for the colony, while others are tasked with finding that food. The Portuguese man-o'-war can't actively swim. The species must instead rely on its bloated pneumatophore, which pokes out above the surface of the water and catches the wind like a ship's sail. Geographically, they have no special connection to Portugal. They're instead called the Portuguese man-o'-war because of the animal's distinctive sailing mechanism that is likened to 15th century Portuguese warships. They can get carried north with the Gulf Stream current off the coast of the United States and wash up on beaches from South Carolina to Maine, travel across the Atlantic, and end up on the coast of England and northern European countries. When it comes to the ones in the Indo-Pacific, it's a bit of a debate as to whether or not they belong to the same species, but overall, they function the same. Beware, you should watch out for these Portuguese man-o'-war because stings from them can be fatal even after they have died. They have long, thin tendrils that can extend up to 165 feet in length below the surface, although 30 feet is the average. They are covered in venom-filled nematocysts used to paralyze and kill fish and other small creatures. In Florida, however, the local government, a village of Key Biscaynes, says that to humans, their stings are excruciatingly painful, but rarely deadly. Beach cleanup workers in Taidong conservation areas are working tirelessly to remove the potentially lethal marine creatures. Some workers have noted that this is the first time they've seen such a widespread siphonophore invasion. It may be very tempting to touch the blue and purple translucent creatures, but you've been warned. Please do not. And if you are to learn a word of the day, siphonophore would be a great one. That is Siphonophores. Siphonophores. Our main course today looks at why penguins' feet don't freeze. A very cute question. Darwin's central principle of evolution is that all organisms, all the way from simple bacteria to complex mammals, are adapted by natural selection to survive in a particular niche and habitat. I do know that niche, I think, is said niche, but I refuse to pronounce it that way. Ecophysiology is the study of an organism's anatomy and how it functions, while also studying how these characteristics relate to the challenges posed by its environment. Have you ever wondered why we, for example, have eyelashes? I know I have, because once you get one in your eye, you really wonder, what is the function of having these things? David Hu and his colleagues at Georgia Institute of Technology in Atlanta set out to answer this question. They measured the eyelashes of 22 mammals and found that the length of eyelashes is roughly 1/3 of the width of the mammalian eye. They built a wind tunnel that could blow air past a cup of water with eyelashes on its rim. The length of 1/3 of the eye's width reduced evaporation of the cup's water by a factor of 2. So essentially, eyelashes help keep the eyes moist by reducing the airflow. Shorter lashes may fail at properly blocking the air, and longer eyelashes may actually direct more airflow to the eye. I know the next time I see somebody with unnaturally long-looking false eyelashes, I'll be wondering to myself if they get dry eye easily. But when you then compare that to the climates people with these eyelashes live in, you get ecophysiology, the study of the response of an organism's physiology to environmental conditions. This study of ecophysiology shows how the anatomy of animals or plants are linked to their ability to survive. It's a study that now helps scientists understand how climate change is affecting wild ecosystems and cultivated environments. Scientists have revealed several specific adaptations suited to different environments. Animals that live in colder regions tend to have larger bodies and smaller legs, ears, and tails than related species living in warmer climates. Think penguins, short legs, hidden ears, and short tails. A larger body has a smaller surface area to mass ratio, therefore can lose heat more slowly, while smaller appendages reduce exposure to frostbite. Think in the winter when you walk outside and your fingers or ears are the first things to get cold. In the most extreme weather, warm-blooded animal feet are at a risk of becoming frozen to the ground. Mammals in Arctic regions like musk oxen and polar bears have thick hairs to insulate their feet as survival adaptation. What about penguins, though? In the Arctic, penguins' feet are insulated with a thick layer of fat. Penguins also have a heat exchange or countercurrent mechanism in their legs, where the warm blood arriving from the body is cooled by the chilled blood arriving from the feet, and that blood warms up to body temperature in the process. Gazelles in Africa use a similar countercurrent system to cool their body temperature, as they can chill the blood entering their head. This gives them an advantage over some predators, which can easily overheat. Camels also have a similar mechanism, which actually takes place in their nasal cavity and reduces the amount of water lost when they breathe. By cooling the air with moisture it passes inside the nose, the exhaled air is much cooler than the outside air. Back in 1984, a British scientist named Peter Wheeler suggested that human bipedalism, or the ability to walk on two legs, evolved as a thermoregulatory adaptation that reduces the body's exposure to direct sunlight. In an anthropology college course that I took, we learned that bipedalism caused the human hips to narrow, which made it necessary for human babies, to be born earlier, making these babies much more helpless and vulnerable when compared to babies of other animal species. Because, you'll see another animal have a baby, and then that baby will get right up on their legs and start walking around. And then you think of human babies and how helpless they are. Ecophysiology is not just about animals, though. It's also focused on plants. Plants, fungi, and microbes also must adapt to their environment and conditions to survive. And scientists are studying such adaptations with the hopes of making vital discoveries for commercial and conservation purposes. In this episode, we welcome in a new show segment centered around teaching listeners, just like you, how to train your dog. Starting with the basics, tune in each episode and you'll eventually be able to do just about anything as far as training goes. I grew up with dogs, many of them, at most 4 dogs at once, and all but one were medium to large size dogs. With no offense to my parents, because I know my mom listens to this program sometimes, little was done in the way of training them, and it became a major nuisance, a real-life obstacle. What would happen is we'd have visitors come over, and our dogs would bark their heads off at the unfamiliar people, then jump up on the familiar people. When it's an elderly relative, that's actually pretty dangerous. You have a large, heavy dog jumping up on an unstable elderly person. They could fall, they could get hurt. Some relatives just stopped coming over because they said it was just too much. Our dogs almost all knew how to go to the bathroom outside, sit, shake, and lay down, but that was just about all we did to train them. Whether or not you have dogs currently, the concepts of how to train them can still act as a valuable lesson and can be applied to other situations. I know some of the things I've learned about dog training have also applied over to how to train cats, or when I run into an unruly dog, I know better about dog nature, right? And I know how to better respond. So let's get started with some of the very, very basics, the essentials. It's the first fundamental to dog training. And it doesn't have anything to do with food quite yet. You would think that would be the first thing, but actually no. For today's segment, I'm referring to the works of Zach George. Zach George is an American dog trainer, writer, and broadcast personality known for his YouTube channel. He also has had shows on the Animal Planet. Zach George says that every single dog is unique and will require a tailored approach. When it comes to the things dog owners get wrong the most, he says this is the one thing he would like to correct the most. Rather than seeing dogs as computers that can be programmed, they should be addressed as individuals. If you thought that different breeds of dogs would have different sets of training regimens, even that would be wrong. It's not about the species or about the breed. It truly is about the individual. Just like children going to school, teachers will find that a tailored approach is often needed to effectively inspire and teach different classrooms and different students. Most people get a dog wanting a loyal, loving companion, not an unemotional robot animal. The relationship people form with their dogs is also critical, as it's the foundation that everything is built on. If that foundation starts to give out, meaningful training results shouldn't be expected. Mutually earned trust should actually become before constantly correcting behaviors, and that bond, it takes time and patience. As for how to establish that bond, it depends, but in general, if your dog will play with you, you're probably on the right track. Researchers have discovered that dogs enjoy exercise in a way that's similar to humans. According to a study in the Journal of Experimental Biology, dogs can experience a runner's high. Overall, psychologically, it is also great for animals, cats, dogs, and beyond, to associate you with something they find fun. We as humans do the same thing with other humans. If we were always laughing and having a good time when we hang out with someone named Larry, we're going to like Larry and enjoy being around him more. Some dogs may be more mellow and not into toys or playing, which is absolutely fine as well. Maybe instead of playing, those dogs would enjoy some affectionate pets or strolls around your neighborhood where they can experience different sights, smells, and sounds. You need to find out what makes your dog happy so you can let your pet know that they can count on you to find happiness. But that is, I guess, more applicable to if you have a dog. There will be much more widely applicable, useful information in future episodes. Next week in this segment, we can look more into turning your pup into a well-behaved dog and talk about whether or not dogs misbehave because they are intentionally trying to displease you or challenge your authority. Given the story earlier about siphonophores in Taiwan, I figured it would only be suitable to talk about what you should do if you are to ever be stung by a siphonophore. The treatment, according to White Cross Training UK, is mostly the same. And note, it doesn't include urine. Mild stings may be delivered by jellyfish such as the moon jellyfish and the by-the-wind sailor, a siphonophore. These are generally considered stimulating rather than distressing. Painful stings may cause discomfort for hours, characterized by sensations resembling electric shocks and persistent throbbing. Severe stings are rare but formidable and may be inflicted by marine life, such as the lion's mane jellyfish or the Portuguese man-o-war. These stings can cause extensive pain and swelling, which can last for days and affect an entire limb. First, the White Cross Training UK suggests rinsing the affected area with seawater. then using tweezers or the edge of a credit card to remove any tentacles or spines. Be warned to not touch the spines yourself. Soak the area in very warm water for at least 30 minutes. Be advised that vinegar or urine on the sting is not advised and can make things worse. The Guardian, on the other hand, claims that scientists have found that applying vinegar is the best solution, and that urine, lemon juice, or shaving foam, again, could make things worse. Across the board, though, it would seem as though applying heat is generally considered the best course of action. In other news, Belgium to become the 7th country to enact a permanent ban on dolphinariums. A dolphinarium is an aquarium in which dolphins are kept and trained for public entertainment. Belgium has announced that it will permanently ban dolphinariums, becoming the 7th country in the world to enact such legislation. The move has been confirmed by the Belgian government and will result in significant changes for the country's only dolphinarium located in Bruges. The new legislation will prevent the establishment of any new dolphinariums in Belgium and phase out existing operations. The decision was made following growing concerns about the welfare of dolphins in captivity. Belgian authorities are working on a transition plan for the current dolphinarium in Bruges, which houses several dolphins. Under the ban, facilities will no longer be permitted to house dolphins in artificial tanks. The law will also put an end to performances, interactions with the public, and other activities that exploit dolphins for entertainment. The one dolphinarium left in Belgium, operated by the Bodewin Sea Park, is home to several dolphins that will be directly affected by this ban. Plans are being developed to determine the next steps for these animals, with a focus on their long-term welfare. Belgian officials are expected to collaborate with marine mammal experts and conservation organizations to explore relocation options, such as sea sanctuaries. Belgium will join countries like Costa Rica, Chile, and Croatia in enacting a full ban on dolphinariums. These nations have implemented similar measures to address concerns about animal welfare and the ethical issues of keeping dolphins in captivity. The exact timeline for the implementation of the ban has not yet been disclosed. However, Belgian authorities have stated that the transition will ensure the humane treatment of dolphins currently in captivity, prioritizing their health and safety during the process. While there is, of course, some opposition to banning dolphinariums, with some wanting to advocate for the facilities on the basis of being able to get a closer look at the animals for educational purposes, the banning of dolphinariums is a much more widely discussed topic in the animal rights realm. For now, it seems like those in support of and fighting to ban dolphinariums outnumber those fighting to keep them. Have you ever had a memorable experience with an animal? Whether it's an observation at the zoo, an interaction with the wild animal, or the thousands of stories you could share as a pet owner, I want to hear about it. So if you're a fan of snail mail, please send me letters via the post, and if you're more digital, you can send me an email. That way I can read it on air to share with all of our lovely Formosa Fauna friends. It could be the simplest thing, and as long as it means something to you, it means something to me. If you're sending in a letter, the address can be found online. Just look for the number 55 Bay An Road address in Taipei, Taiwan. Write your emails to Tristan at rti.org.tw. That is TRISTAN at rti.org.tw. What's funny about my name is the other day in the United States when I ordered Starbucks, I said my name was Tristan. I did spell it out for her, but she must not have caught that part. So she spelled it as CHRITATEN. I don't know. It's very creative, but it's spelled TRISTAN. And that email is that name at rti.org.tw. Making it to the end of an episode makes you a Formosa Fauna friend. Thank you for tuning in, friend. All animals require enrichment, and Formosa Fauna is just that. After all, we're all just a bunch of wild animals. See you next time for Formosa Fauna Fridays here on Radio Taiwan International.